Hello, welcome back to another episode of my Garage Podcast. In this episode, I'm going to be going over some life stuff and getting back into talking about the economy and just getting back to the original premise of this podcast. In this video, I wanted to start talking about some life stuff because I felt that it was really important, especially right now to how I'm feeling. I felt like for the longest time, if there was something that I just didn't want to do, I would like half-ass it, or I would just like completely ignore it, and this would cause me a lot of stress, especially if it was something like I had to meet with the counselor. It was something I really don't really like to do because it's, I feel like I've just had bad experiences when it's come to counselors, but at the end of the day, meeting with the counselor and finding out the answer to my question is far more important than those feelings. And now that I get older, I'm starting to realize that these small things that I don't want to do lead to the big things that I want. And it isn't just with school, but my life as a whole. When it comes to meeting, like as I said, meeting with teachers or counselors, for the relationships, for needing help or relationships with my friends, I can't go my whole life without facing these things because I feel awkward or scared. Because with the big goals that I want, that I've set for myself, I need to face these things. And the more and more that I try to fight it and realize that it's not that I'm hoping for this day where it's like everything's just going to be easy for me and I won't have stress. That day won't come, and I just need to learn how to accept it and move on with my life and be comfortable in those uncomfortable situations. And how there's going to be things constantly coming at me that I don't want to do, and I don't know what I'm hoping is that I'm just supposed to ignore it, and eventually I will start to get used to it and not be scared. But because I need to realize that every time these situations come in, it's just the same thing over and over again. I feel stressed, and if I face it, it's it's gonna be easier. And then if I don't face it, then I'm later down the line when there's something that's getting messed up, and like right now where it's like I really wanted to go to Berkeley, but I didn't get in. If I were to face things in the past where I joined a club or I focused more on my schoolwork, then maybe I wouldn't be in the situation where I am in now. And now that I realize it, it it makes life a lot easier. So eventually when I do transfer to the school or whatever happens to me, in the next place, I have another goal that I have set for myself to get into a good master's program because eventually I'm hoping getting my master's. Um Not moping around and being like, why is all these things being so hard, but actually facing them and pushing myself further to be uncomfortable and realizing how to balance my life and realizing that the things that I don't want to do, it's for the goals that I do want. And I just kind of been struggling with that for a while. And recently I just realized how much these small things eventually lead to the big things that I do want. And now getting back to the topic of this podcast and kind of getting back to the economy and just focusing why I started this. I want to give some background as to why there's been a lot circular a lot of information circulating uh, around the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, from him getting investigated to him leaving his position, etc. But before I get into this, I want to explain how somebody gets the job of being the Fed chair and the surrounding information of the Fed and their main purpose. I previously stated this, but the Fed chairman serves a 4-year term, and once that term's over, it is over. And they're up for re election, and they don't have a term limit like the president, and they can serve as many times as they want as long as they get nominated. The way to get appointed to the Fed chairman is by being appointed by the president with approval of Congress and all three houses or all three branches of the government just agreeing that this person should be the Fed chairman, and then they're able to be the Fed chairman. And the Fed chairman is just like the person that guides the Fed, and they're like the, for lack of better words, the main guy. Um, One second. Sorry about that. But getting back into what I was talking about, and this is a little bit of a side note, but midterms, among other voting, is how who holds the power for Congress is elected, and voting happens to decide who holds power for Congress every 2 years. And I thought that was important because that's how the Republicans now hold the power of the Congress and get to choose and aid in choosing the new Fed chair. But getting back to what I was just talking about, there are 7 members in the federal board, which includes the chair and a vice chair. The responsibilities include studying trends in the economy and helping guide the economic forecast and the economic future of the U.S. And to be a part of the board, you get nominated by the president. And then, with the help of Congress and all that other stuff, you eventually get moved up to being the Fed chair if everybody agrees on you being the Fed chair. And that is why the new president's nominee, I think Kevin Walsh, is said to be the new Fed chair, is because there's Republicans they hold all three branches of power in the government right now. So if the president is agreeing that he should be the Fed chair, that means a lot more people are going to go along with the idea of being the Fed chair, because right now a lot of Republicans are in support of Donald Trump. And the problem is right now, because Jerome Powell has not cut interest rates fast enough, according to the president's standards, he has now nominated a new candidate. This has now resulted in Powell staying on as a board member because he believes that the Republican Party, or those support the new Fed chair, are putting the public into a risky situation because he believes a little bit stutter. They will not conduct monetary policy without considering political factors, meaning that they're going to value what's going on in the government over how it could, over long run implications of the actions that they have. President Trump shared a Truth Social post stating his opinions on Powell staying on as a board member, and he said that, I quote this, he can't get a job anywhere else, and this is as to why Powell will stay on as a board member. And right now, the Senate Banking Committee has just voted to confirm Kevin Walsh, Trump's new nominee, pushing him further along to being the new chair. But right now, he's not set to take over the Fed chair, but to take over Stephen Murin's seat. And Stephen Murin is a very close ally of Trump, and he is a current board member. And the last couple meetings, he has voted for a more intensive strategy of cutting interest rates, while most Fed chairs agree that, or most board members agree that should be a 0.25%. There's been times where he's wanted a double of what interest rate has been cut at, and he has suggested that it should be around a 0.5%, if I'm not wrong. And Trump believes that the current members will be open to Walsh being the Fed chair, and this marks a new break in history because Powell's last three predecessors have left their chairs after their term has ended. And but some have before these last three have stayed on for a little bit, like 3 years or some, but for the most part when their term ended, their board membership ended, and it's kinda just unprecedented, his approach right now. And getting on to the next topic, um, even though the war in Iran is still going on, oil giants Exxon and Chevron are still performing well, and they've beat earning estimates but did not meet expectations on revenue, which can mean they are selling less of their product but still making more profit. And this is one of the reasons as to why the S&P 500 has been performing so well over the past 5 days, which is now sitting as of Friday, May 1st, around 7,200. And I haven't checked since then. Maybe there has been a little bit of a change, but I just want to double check because now it's Sunday, and I'm pretty sure, unless other things have happened, there's less of a chance that things have changed because market is closed. Okay, yeah. Nothing much has happened. It's still staying the same price. As well, the Nasdaq has been performing well since Apple been has had a better quarterly report, pushing Apple further up, and this results in the tech-heavy Nasdaq being pushed up. And continuing to talk about stocks, the stock market has had its best month in April since the pandemic, and I'm pretty sure it was in April 2020. That's the last time the stock market has been doing this well. I could be wrong. It could be a little bit later, but it was since 2020. It's the stock market right now has been doing a lot better than it has been doing in the past 6 years, 6 or so years. And many small stocks performing well have caused indexes to improve and gain value. And if you were to tell an investor this month would have been one of the best months since the pandemic, they would not have believed you because of the war in Iran and a bull market suddenly on defense. And this means a market that was performing well, but then relatively rapidly, investors shifted into investing in safer, less volatile stocks, meaning stocks with less risk. It kind of sounds redundant, but it's whatever. Um, as well, what has shifted and given a reason to believe that stocks are doing well is that tech stocks have done heavy lifting, such as the SPDR fund, which has gained 20% and has had its best months since October 2022. And as well, because of how much demand AI has brought in, have been doing a chip companies have been doing really well and has pushed the stocks further up. And chips are basically how AI is able to compute and run and answer questions so fastly or so rapidly. Maybe it's a bad word. As well, Intel has had its best month ever and has pushed stocks farther than the dot-com era, which is scary because I will admit it, I am a hater when it comes to AI. And when they're doing things similar to how it was during the dot-com bubble, it gives me signs that this is a bubble, or at least that it's performing very similar to how bubble is performing. And if it has done better than the dot-com era, and now how much inflation has affected money, with money being worth more now than it was back then, who's to say that Intel is not performing as well as they did when the dot-com bubble was going on? But what brings into the question of how well stocks are performing and the strength of them is how well they will do in May, and if they will be able to continue this bull market and continue trends of performing well. And the Russell 2000 index which tracks smaller companies that have gone public, meaning stocks that are publicly traded and can be bought and sold by the public and investors, has been performing very well and gives evidence as to why it was said earlier that small companies have been giving support to the stock market, improving how well the market is doing right now. As well, in April, this index has gained around a 12% increase, while in the past year has gone up roughly 13%, which may not be fair comparison since there has been months in the Russell when it was doing well and was performing similarly to how it is now, and times when it's been performing not as well as it could have, and it's just been really rocky. But this growth is very positive for the stock market. As well, this shows how consistent the Russell is, and I just don't know if this is a good or bad thing, how consistent it is, because it could go into the case where in the next couple months it goes down, but it still has been giving a steady increase. Um, and that's all I have to say for this episode. I hope that you were able to be informed, and I'll just say thank you and please continue to watch.